Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Emily and I will be your instructor today for another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 tutorial. I have done a couple more of these videos. Just please go ahead and click the link right here or just check the link in the description box. So for today's topic, it has been a highly requested one. We're gonna be doing a full IFR flight. I'm gonna be flying the Grand Caravan and we're gonna be going from Burbank in California all the way to Las Vegas International. That's McCarran International Airport, I believe. So this time with the full IFR flight though, I will be diving into the world of live ATC and we're going to be trying out Pilotedge. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Pilotedge itself during the cruise portion of the flight, so make sure you stick around for that. But first, a couple of things that I just wanted to cover. These types of videos, these Microsoft Flight Sim tutorials, they do take a lot of planning and preparation and just like preparing everything sort of ahead of time. So I would really appreciate if you guys want to go ahead and subscribe. It really does make a big difference in terms of like the YouTube algorithm and it makes a really big difference for me, especially while I am still unfortunately laid off from my airline. I just want to thank everybody who is already subscribed. I really appreciate it. I honestly can't believe the community that we've already built. So again, a thank you to everybody that's subscribed and please consider doing so if you found value or entertainment with these videos. Okay, since everybody requests you, can you just say hello to the camera? I just woke her up from her beauty sleep. So she's probably like, Mom, what the heck? Okay, so before we actually get into the tutorial, I'm just gonna mention a couple of things. So I am gonna be flying the Grand Caravan, which has like the G1000. I did do a bit of a tutorial, so make sure you go and check that out in the description. But I'm not type rated specifically. I have never flown the Grand Caravan in person. So what I did is I actually just looked ahead and just asked my friends who are currently flying the Grand Caravan to give me some tips. So some reference speeds and just, you know, how to kind of fly it a little bit. So don't at me if I'm not perfect with the Grand Caravan. So that's the first thing. Thank you. And in terms of Pilotedge itself for the service, so a couple of things that you just want to keep in mind. You do have to plan a little bit in terms of using the service. And what I mean by that is you're going to first need to decide whether or not you're doing, of course, a VFR or an IFR flight. If you're going to be doing an IFR flight, you will go ahead and enter the flight plan into the program itself so that the controllers can actually see what you're planning to do and they can clear you accordingly. And then you can also enter that same flight plan into the world map, the free flight portion that I kind of talked about and covered in another video. So you're going to go ahead and plan for that and enter it ahead. The other thing that you're going to be needing and that I recommend is just to make sure that you have all of your charts and your frequencies ahead of time. So you can use a service like, not a service, but the website skyvector.com, and it has all of the FAA charts and plates. If you're doing the full IFR thing, you're going to want to really make sure that you have all of the charts. So you can have your airport diagram, your SID that you're planning on doing for that departure, your star for the arrival into the arrival airport, your approach plates that you're expecting to be doing over there, and then of course your airport diagram for your landing airport. So all that kind of stuff just takes a little bit of planning and preparation. So just make sure that you have that before you actually spawn up and start the flight, because they won't be able to provide you with all that information. It's expected that you have that for yourself. And then the last thing that I will mention is just make sure that you do have a notepad so that you can actually take some notes down, because if you are doing the full IFR flight, like what we're going to be doing today, you are going to be needing to write down your ATIS, get your clearance, get all your information, so that when you're actually writing everything down, because you are a single pilot, it's going to be a lot and you don't want to try to memorize all that info. You just want to write it down to make sure that when you're reading it back, it is correct. So now that I've covered all that, let's actually get into the flight. So before we actually spawn up and get started, I just wanted to let you guys know what we're planning here. So I have the Cessna 208 planned out. I've got Burbank Airport and going into Las Vegas, and then the routing itself. By the way, I do have some notes here, so if you guys see me looking down, that is the reason for that. So our routing for today, if you want to follow along and you want to enter it into your flight plan, it's going to be a Burbank, the Van Nuys 3 departure, Daggett transition, which is DAG. I'll write it down on the screen. Creso 4 arrival into Las Vegas, and then planning the ILS 26 left for the approach. So I do have all that set up here. In terms of where we're going to start, I've just chosen just ramp 30 just to be kind of in the middle. And then I've got my departure venue 1-3. I'm expecting 1-5 departure. That's what I did when I practiced last time and it worked out. You can choose a different departure airport if you so wish. The arrival is Creso 4 for all runways into Las Vegas, and then the approach is the ILS 26 left that we're planning. I do have the IFR low altitude airway, and there's your route that it spits out for you. Double check that the altitude you want is selected. I just put 11,000 in my navlog. And then for the flight conditions, we're just going to do some clear skies for today just to get the visibility and to have a nice little view as we fly along for this flight. So I think we're all set up. And let's see how this works. So guess who just recorded their entire ATC flight but had their mic muted? I'm sorry ahead of time if I repeat myself from some of the stuff in the beginning. Yeah, we're gonna try to do this one more time. Okay, so let's get some stuff configured. So I'm expecting taking off from runway 15, which is heading 159. Let's take a look. There's our route. I'm just going to zoom it in so I can see where I am taxiing. There we go. We are going to be flying in heading first. Flight level change. I believe for the Caravan, it's like 105, 104. Also, I apologize ahead of time if my mic sounds echoey. I had to use this as a makeshift to film this because I don't have a proper gaming headset. So anybody who wants to send one over, just let me know. Just double checking the flight plan here. It does a weird thing for whatever reason, the active leg there, it's like a user waypoint because there's a heading on departure. So it just leaves it like this for now. So I'm just gonna set up my clearance frequency and then we will get started. Okay, so we have our clearance and our ground frequency. So clearance is 118.0.
Ground, Cessna 948 Tango at South.
And then we have our ground frequency 129.0. So we're just getting ready ahead of time. And then the other thing I'll do is I will set up, I've got all my approach plates and all that here. So I will also set up some of my nav frequencies that I'm expecting to be using. Okay, so I've got my nav frequencies all set up now, and I will get my airport diagram for Burbank just so we can visualize it.
Clearance on departure, flight runway heading, maintain VFR at below 1,500, televised. Departure frequency 120.55, squawk 1466.
Okay, let's see if we can get our clearance here.
Ontario Tower. Diamond 900 Alpha Victor, clear runway 26 left.
There's 0 Alpha Victor, taxi to parking via Sierra, have a wonderful night.
Taxi to parking via Sierra, 0 Alpha Victor.
Burbank clearance, good evening. It's Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, IFR clearance to Las Vegas, please.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Burbank clearance, clear to Las Vegas, McCarran International Airport, Van Nuys 3, departure Daggett transition as filed, maintain 4,000, expect 10,000, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 134.2, squawk 7066.
All right, Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo is cleared to the Las Vegas Airport. Van Nuys 3 departure Daggett transitioned as filed. Cleared to 4,000 feet. Expect 1,000 10 minutes after departure. And frequency there will be 134.2 squawking 7066.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, read back correct.
Okay, so now that
Ground Skyhawk 421 Tango Kilo, the northwest ramp.
So now that we have our information and we have our clearance, I just leave it to 39 until you have the official Ifr clearance, so you know you don't you don't forget to call it up. So we have 4,000 feet. We can expect 1,000 after 10 minutes after departure, and then we'll just throw in our transponder.
982 Charlie Alpha, Santa Barbara Tower. It sounds a little hollow, but you're definitely readable. There's some background noise, but you're readable.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We'll go ahead, please.
Okay, so I've switched over to ground frequency now, and I'm just going to preemptively enter my tower frequency, so 118.7, so that once we taxi over, we will be ready to go. Okay, so there we go. I think we're all ready, so...
Santa Barbara Tower, Sky 421 Kilo, holding short, runway 15 right, ready for departure.
Also, I don't know how to move this lovely ground marshal out of the way, so we're just gonna pretend like that person doesn't exist there, and we're going to taxi.
Clear for takeoff, 421 Kilo.
Burbank ground is Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo on the main apron. Got information Zulu ready for taxi runway 15 for departure, please.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, Burbank ground, runway 15, taxi to Bravo.
Taxi Bravo for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, thanks. Okay, so Bravo is what we expected. It's just the one taxiway just to the other side of 15, so I think we are gonna be good to go. I noticed also that taxiing from this perspective is a little bit easier for me, so we're going to do that.
With V5 request A, again, you're partially blocked.
Van Nuys ground, Skyhawk 737 Quebec Foxtrot, holding short Alpha and Alpha 28, taxi with Yankee.
Okay, set my parking brake, taxi light is off.
Foxtrot, Van Nuys ground, runway 16 right, taxi Alpha Charlie. Are you remaining in the pattern or departing?
Now departing to the west, and Roger taxiing to 16 right, the Alpha and Charlie, Skyhawk 737.
Okay, so something that I'm gonna have such a hard time remembering what I did in this version versus what I did already. So please forgive me if it's a little bit out of whack. I'm a little bit tired. Okay, so one of the things I didn't do yet is just brief the actual SID. So typically this would have already been done before taxiing, so forgive me for the out of order, but I'm just gonna brief it. So we are planning the Van Nuys departure out of Burbank in California. The chart is 10-3 Charlie. It's effective the 10th of September. Our departure frequency, we already have it from our clearance. It's going to be 134.2. The airport itself is at 778 feet. We do have radar, and it is required. Transition altitude, not applicable because we're going to be staying at 11,000. So in terms of the routing, I'm just going to talk it through. So we're going to be departing 15. So after departure, it will be a right turn to heading 213. And then we're going to be expecting that they're going to be continuing to give us vectors. Top altitude is assigned by ATC, and the routing will expect radar vectors to the Van Nuys VOR, and then we're going to be via the transition. So for us, at some point, it could be Twine, and then Lange, Slap, Boggett, Palmdale VOR, Ether to the Daggett transition. And that transition is actually onto the Star into Las Vegas, so it ties in perfectly for our flight plan. There is some high terrain to the east of the airport, and then another thing to keep in mind, there is restricted airspaces, but because we're on IFR flight plan, they will be vectoring us around for that. So we don't have to worry about that. And then I think that's everything. So the only thing to keep in mind really is after departure, I'll be turning to a heading of 213. The sim has been super wonky for me, so I'm going to do my best to set the autopilot shortly after takeoff or once we do our turn. It just pitches really, really abruptly sometimes, so I'm going to do my best, but otherwise I think we are all good to go. Burbank Terrace, Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, ready for departure 1-5.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Burbank Tower, runway 15, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 1-5, Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. Okay, here we go. So landing lights, strobe, and parking brake. So rotate is going to be about 70 knots. And then once we're airborne, we're going to be setting our heading.
At the terminal, requesting departure to the northwest with information Tango.
Seven four Delta Foxtrot, North Las Vegas ground, runway 12 right. Taxi Charlie, Alpha.
The power
Golf.
is set.
Hold short, runway 7 at Golf. Contact tower holding short.
Airspeed is alive.
Runway 12 right, taxi via Charlie, Alpha Golf, hold short, runway 127, 764 Delta Fox.
El Monte Ground Warrior 185 Juliet Bravo and right downwind for runway 90.
They're 5 Juliet Bravo, thank you, runway 19, clear to land.
Clear to land 195 Juliet Bravo.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, contact SoCal departure, have a great flight.
Over to departure for SoCal for Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. Good night. So forgive me while I try to multitask this. Okay, let's see if my autopilot will arm. Oh. Nope. Standard. Okay. Departure, hello, it's Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, heading 213, climbing 1500 for 4000. Oh, no wonder. It changed. I don't know at what point. Please capture. I screwed up the frequency here. .2. Oh my gosh. SoCal departure, hello, it's Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, heading 213, climbing 4000 for 4000.
CGOCR, SoCal departure, rate of contact, Clementine 900,000.
Clementine at 900,000 for Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. So they can change that. That's a new thing apparently. They can just use your call sign in letters, or they can still use the phonetic alphabet. So 9,000 alt cell, we are still climbing out. We are on their proper heading now. I feel like I've finally sorted my life. The trim is so weird. Let me know if you guys are also experiencing the same thing.
CGOCR, flight 340.
Flight heading 340 for Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. I'm having a hard time with hearing that.
Choco Push, 737 Quebec Foxtrot, we are about
7 miles west of Bay Knife. The background is 7172.
So 340 heading.
6,500 feet.
7 Quebec 5, Trans Block 6306 at end.
So based on where we're pointing to,
6306 side end, Sky Century Temple with Control.
I'm kind of thinking they're going to clear us probably to Lange, like direct to Lange. So while we're still climbing out and everything looks good.
SCGSCR traffic 12 o'clock, 4 miles southbound on 2 gauge 5,500, typing on, they're over Van Nuys.
Oh, I just got them visual for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, thanks.
CGSCR, thank you. Clear direct Lang, resume
There
departure.
they are. All right, clear delay to Lang and resume the departure for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. Okay, so they did clear to Lange and the rest of the SID. So we're going to type that in. Now, if you were actually operating this, there's a much easier way to do this. You could just enter direct to, and all your waypoints would get pre-populated. There's obviously not this the luxury for this here. So we're just going to type it in.
6 November Delta, contact Almani Tower, 121.2, Squawk VFR, have a good one.
121.2 and Squawk VFR, Sky 246 on Delta.
I have traffic inside Sky Century Temple with Control.
Okay, enter, and then we're going to switch to nav. So we actually intercept that waypoint, and we see now that we are heading direct to Lange, and hopefully, last time I flew this, it was fine, but sometimes there's issues with its sequencing, because right now, Twine to Lange is the active leg. We see that by the magenta. So I'm just going to turn that down. So hopefully once we go to Lange, it'll sequence to our next waypoint. It should. So a couple of things that I learned. Torque setting, you're looking at around feet per pound. It's like 19.
SCGSCR, climb maintain 1000.
Climb maintain 1000. Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. All right. 1000, and then flight level change for 105. That's perfect. What was I saying? Oh yeah, prop is going to be around 1900. Your foot pound torque is like 1865 or something like that. Again, you guys can just look all this stuff up with tutorials, or just look them up online, because I'm not a Grand Caravan pilot by any means. Oops. That's nice. So one of the cool things that I found out as well, I got so much help from Kevin over at Pilotedge. Thank you, Kevin. He helped me plan this whole thing. The reason why we chose Burbank to Las Vegas is because I was wanting to get an example with a full like IFR coverage, of course. So having a towered airport, having towered airports in both situations, and then. I also wanted to make sure that I had a proper SID and a star, as well as an instrument approach. So, and it's something as well that was within range of with the aircraft that I was going to be flying. So this kind of worked perfectly. And one of the cool things I found out is that you can actually accelerate the sim rate. So there's different settings. You can just look them up on your simulator, but you just want to make sure that you clear it with them, the controllers, ahead of time, so they know like how fast you're going to be kind of blasting through. So through 10,000, probably turn these landing lights off. There's 10,000 feet. And then we're almost leveled out. So 10,000 for 11,000. That looks good still. And then once we kind of cruise along, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts about Pilotedge, and then we will also brief the entire approach for Las Vegas. So we are leveled out. Perfect. That's the only thing I was kind of...
Point Magoo at 124.7 for 90848 Tango.
That's the only thing I was kind of worried about, is whether or not it was going to sequence. So it did now. Oops.
737 Quebec Foxtrot, contact Point Magoo approach 124.7.
124.7. 7 Tranquil.
There we go.
CGSCR, contact Joshua approach 126.1. Have a good flight.
126.1 for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. Take care.
Point Magoo approach, Cessna 9848 Tango at 7,500.
For 9848 Tango, Point Magoo approach, Camry altimeter 2987.
Okay. Joshua approach, good evening. It's Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo 11,000 heading for slap.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Joshua approach, Roger, Palmdale altimeter 2991.
Check 2991, and I'll be requesting to accelerate my sim if possible for Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Roger. Time compression approved, not above 4 times, and then resume normal time compression there at WIG.
Okay, sounds good. Not above 4 times compression, and we'll resume a normal at WIG for Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. Okay, so he's approved me that I can accelerate, which is great, and it's not above 4 times, which is kind of crazy fast. So we'll just go to 2 for now and see. And then WIG is a waypoint just in the future on the flight plan, so that's perfect. I was obviously, okay, first of all, I'm not sponsored by Pilotedge. They just approached me, they just offered me to try out their service. So of course, I'm all game for trying that stuff out. I mean, why not? It was like super nerve-wracking at the beginning because I haven't flown and I haven't done anything IFR since I got laid off in May. So I was like, heck yeah, like we're gonna do this. So not sponsored by them, I just wanted to give it a shot. So my overall thoughts, like pros and cons of kind of using this, I think I've mentioned before, or I've responded to a bunch of people in the comments section. Like people ask me a lot whether or not it's beneficial. Oh, we can hear a nav frequency in the background. People have asked me whether or not it's beneficial for them to get Microsoft Flight Sim, during their private or their commercial license. And to be perfectly honest, I typically tell people like, it's not a requirement. If you love it and you've already had it, I mean, why not? I'm sure it could add to the procedures and taking care of, your flows. It's not a bad idea to add it to your array of things that you do. But the thing to keep in mind is like, it takes a lot of time to set things up. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of bugs to deal with, and it doesn't give you the actual feedback of what you're actually doing, what you're actually flying. So in terms of the, the procedures, if you're practicing, for your, straight and level, or you're practicing your landings, it's not going to make really much sense. Same with your commercial. Now, and the other thing too, I guess to mention is it costs a lot of money to do this, right? So it's going to be costing a lot of money for the program. It's going to cost a lot of money for, your setup, for the desktop that needs to be able to run this. So a lot of times flight training is quite limited in terms of, your actual funds. And it's one of the most frequent reasons why people actually don't even get into flight training in the first place. So I wouldn't recommend it for that reason, because it's not necessary. This is the first time I'm using a flight sim in 10 years of like flying. So again, not necessary. Now, that being said, had I had this with my multi-IFR rating, I would have loved this, because my biggest thing that I struggled with is visualizing and like practicing the procedures. So like visualizing how to enter the hold, visualizing all my approaches. So if I could have used this service while I was working on my multi-IFR to make me more efficient in the actual aircraft, so that I could just kind of like nail the procedures a bit more fluidly and it would come to me more easily, I would have loved to use this service, because it just allows you for a really cheap, fee to practice with actual ATC air traffic controllers. So huge benefit, and it would really, really heighten the IFR side of things. So definitely something that I would recommend for that. Because it's just, you can just practice it. You can just do the route. You can do the actual routing that you're going to be planning with your instructor. Like, I think it's fantastic. Now, there are different systems and programs that are out there. I haven't tried them out yet. So this is just my experience with this one, Pilotedge specifically, which I'm definitely enjoying so far. I got shit. I got in shit. Well, one of the times with the air traffic controller, which is definitely realistic how it would happen. I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm just saying, like, this is what they're probably dealing with at work too, right? So they're just in their natural environment. So it's really funny. So a little bit of information in terms of the actual Pilotedge stuff. They have most of Western US coverage. And you can see on their website, they have all the information of what's actually covered, but it's most of Western US. Their times, I believe, are from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time, 7 days a week, just not on holidays. Again, that's all on there. You can use it with your X-Plane. You can use it with, obviously, Flight Sim 2020. And then you can use it with Prepared and Microsoft 2004, I believe, as well. So all that information on their website, and it's really straightforward to set the whole thing up. I was able to do it just in just a couple minutes, really. So it's really easy, in my opinion. You can file a flight plan with them. You get a push-to-talk that's assigned, so the program knows when you're actually transmitting versus it being like a live mic sort of thing. I think I was just looking at my notes. I think that's kind of it. Like, that's just my experience so far. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Charlie Romeo, contact Delhi Center 134.65.
Say again for Charlie Golf State, Charlie Romeo.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, contact Delhi Center 134.65.
134.65 for Charlie Golf State, Charlie Romeo. 134.
Ground, Alaska 55, Oakland.
Alaska 55, John Wayne, clearance, cleared to the Oakland Airport. Actually, Alaska 55, John Wayne, clearance on request, standby.
An arrival to Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo on 134.65.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, Line Center, roger. The Daggett altimeter 2983.
2983, thanks, Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. 2983. So, of course, because we're not in above our flight transitions,
Alaska 55, John Wayne, clearance.
we have to actually abide by the proper altimeter settings. 2983, there we go.
55, show your departure airports filed as San Diego, Kilo.
So WIG was the point where they wanted us to slow back down, so we'll just keep that in mind. So I think while we do that, we can brief for our arrival. So the Crescent 4 star is going to be our arrival into Las Vegas. So if you guys want to follow along again, I'll throw it on to the sim here so you guys can follow along with the briefing. So, okay, so this is going to be the Crescent 4 arrival into Las Vegas, into McCarran International. It's 10-2 Alpha, 29th of September, 2017. For our ATIS, we're just going to tell them that we have our own weather, so it's going to be information Zulu is the code for that. The airport elevation is 2181. And in terms of our routing, we are going to be expecting to be going from the Daggett transition, which is where we are right now. So Daggett will be to Danby, to Saras, WIG. That's not applicable to us for the altitude restriction at 12,000. That's for turbojets. I believe they'll probably get us to cross it at 10. And then Cresso. And then the routing from Cresso in, on the bottom there, it says from over Cresso, then onto the Boulder VOR, it's radial 213 to the radial, excuse me. And then for 26 left or right, we're going to be expecting the ILS approach. So we can expect that inbound from there, at some point they're going to be giving us a heading and we're going to be able to activate that approach, but I'll talk you guys through that portion in terms of like the G1000 stuff. So then we can move on to the actual ILS itself into Las Vegas. So we're expecting the ILS or localizer runway 26 left into Las Vegas. It's 11-2, 29th of December 2017. The approach coming, we'll see what happens from the west. I'm just going to write it down here so we have the reference, 125.025.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, cross WIG, how to maintain a 10,000, Las Vegas altimeter 2984.
Cross WIG and maintain 10,000 and on 2984 for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. Okay, so this is the challenging part with, if we had VNAV, we would 100% be able to set this up. So 10,000 crossing at WIG means you have to be descending at 10,000 with that waypoint. I don't know, I haven't played around just yet if you could enter that into the flight plan and make it to be at 10,000. That's how VNAV works. So I'm just gonna try to plan it back, maybe a little bit closer to Danby. We'll start our slow descend down there. And he did say 2984, I believe. There we go. And the actual G1000, there is like a little banana, like we call it the banana bar. It's like a curved bar that's in magenta that actually shows you once you start descending. If you're in VS, it actually shows you at what point you should be at the altitude you've actually, the altitude that you've selected here in the altitude window. It doesn't have that again in here. So it's a little bit hard to estimate. So we're just going to do our best to try to get to 10,000 for WIG. So we'll just wait a little bit longer. So I'll continue the briefing and then we'll see where we are at. So Las Vegas Tower, I talked about the approach 125025. Las Vegas Tower, it looks like for runway 26 left or right, it's going to be, tower is going to be 119.9. And then the ground, I'm just going to write it down because it gets busy, 121.1 looks like, which is the east of the runway, which I looked ahead at the chart, at the plate, and it looks like we're going to be staying east of the runway of 1 left and 1 right and 19 left, so that's fine. The localizer frequency, which we have already preset here, is 111.5. Final approach course will be 259. We'll cross Relin. The final approach fix at 3,800. Down to ILS minima will be 2269 or 200 feet above the ground. The airport itself is at 2181, so 1,000 feet. We can say 32, which is where we'll set our missed approach altitude. Highest MSA within the Las Vegas VOR. So what I'll do is I'll actually add bearing 2. Oops. I keep skipping it. There we go. That's the Las Vegas one. So that's our DME distance. So within the Las Vegas VOR, the highest MSA is 13.2. We're going to be on radar vectors, so we can just follow the instructions for that. In the event of a miss, we're going to climb to 3,100, then climbing right turn to 7,000. And we're going to be heading direct to the Boulder VOR and hold. The hold will be, the hold will be a direct entry, standard hold, and inbound track will be 330. And we'll continue the climb to 7,000 if we haven't made it to 7,000 by then. So just visualizing the rest of the notes there, that's fine. Just visualizing, looks like they're going to be kind of making us intercept in like the lower terrain there between the two higher elevation sections. And we know that based on our star, they're going to be giving us a heading to intercept because we can expect vectors to once we get cleared. So I think I'm going to start descending here before I get too distracted. That's not super smooth, sorry. I think I'll resume, he said resume speed as well. So, there we go. Well, that was quick. Okay. So we're down to 10,000 now, which is fine. There you go. I thought I was way closer. That's the issue with not having your everything zoomed in. So we're still a little bit far out from 10,000, which hopefully he won't get mad at us for that. Okay, so what I was saying in terms of like just visualizing our approach. So once we're inbound to the Boulder City VOR, they're going to give us, you know, some sort of heading. I'm anticipating some sort of like a northerly to like northwesterly heading so that we can intercept the localizer. Probably clear us down to like 7,000 or 8,000 feet to intercept the glide slope inbound. And then last but not least, you always want to brief the expected taxiway that you're going to be taking a look at. You want to brief all the way into you actually stopping the aircraft, so to your gate. So in this case, we are looking at 26 left, so that's the southern runway, so to the smaller one, and looks like the first exit point I'm looking at will be Alpha 5, and then Alpha 5 will just stop short of the active to right, and then switch over to ground to make sure we get our clearance and do our after landing checks and all that. And then from Alpha 5 onwards, it'll just be Bravo 5 to the Charlie gates. That's just what I'm going to ask the controller. So that's pretty much all of our briefing. I have all the frequencies there set up. So I did have 111.5, which is our localizer frequency. It will show up right here as with the identifier. I should have actually mentioned the identifier. The identifier is IRLE. So we will see it pop up. The G1000 just, it does identify it. So we know that we can actually follow it along instead of listening to the Morse code. So I have that set up. And then of course, the other one I have set up here, this is the missed approach. This is the Boulder VOR frequency so that we can just toggle it in the event of a missed approach. And then on the secondary one here, I have the Las Vegas VOR just for DME distance. It's not a bad idea to just have an idea of where, I mean, they're both super close to the field, but in the event that they were different, you could obviously just use that secondary one for an idea of where you are visually. Now what I think the bearing one is still not there. So we're going to let that be. Once I do see that it is identified here, I will turn it on to give me the extra needle to shadow so I can start to visualize where my course is going to be to intercept. Let's see where we are here. So just Creso will be your next waypoint. Maybe I can accelerate it a little bit more. You won't be able to tell. Let's see how we're doing. It kind of gives me a bit of like, oh, what is that? Crop circles? The views are pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty sweet. And then a couple things I'll just mention in terms of the approach. So I have my speeds here. I had to write them down so I knew what I was doing. So flap 10 is below 175, flap 10 to 20, so it'll be 150. And then to 30 will be below 125. So I'm going to be planning for that. And then I'm going to be slowing down to, I believe it's 80 knots or so for the actual approach. So we're going to do our best. Try it out.
Altimeter 2987. Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo. Contact Las Vegas approach 118.4.
118.4 for Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo.
Tango, request a quick frequency change to pick up weather at Burbank.
We're 48 Tango, Roger.
So I'm just gonna check in and then I'll just mention one thing here that's just wonky. Approach is Charlie Garcia, Charlie Romeo, level 10,000.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Lost Approach Road, expect visual, runway 1 on our right, and set to maintain 7,000.
I'd like to request the ILS 26 left, if possible, for Charlie Garcia, Charlie Romeo.
Charlie Golf Sierra, Charlie Romeo, Roger, expect ILS runway 26 left approach, set to maintain 7,000.
Set to maintain 7,000 for Charlie Garcia, Charlie Romeo. Okay, so you just have to request it because they don't necessarily know. Obviously, it's beautiful weather there, so they're just going to clear you for a visual. But in this case, because we do want to practice the actual ILS, you just have to request it. So 7,000 alt cell, we're going to go VS down. We'll just go to just 500. Typically, it's like 1,000 feet or so, but this should be fine for inbound to Creso. So below 10,000 feet, just make sure we have our, 10,000 feet checklist that you would probably have. Maybe make a little PA, ladies and gentlemen, to your captain speaking. We're just inbound for our final descent. Should be landing in Las Vegas in the next 15 minutes or so. Thank you so much for flying with us today. We hope you enjoy your time in Las Vegas. Something like that. Okay, so the one thing that I will mention before I try to go a little bit more sterile cockpit, this is really weird. This whole thing here wouldn't be occurring in your flight plan. The reason why that is happening is because I've pre-entered it into the flight plan in like the navlog section at the beginning of the flight. So it's trying to say, hey, you're going to be going to Boulder, you're going to Las Vegas. Oh, but you're also going to go try to do an approach. So that's why there's like the two kind of like lines. Realistically, what would happen is it would just go to Boulder and then stop because the star is just, or it would just keep you on a certain heading, whatever the heading was in the star. I'm just going to increase my... So that's not realistic. It wouldn't join to Las Vegas. And then you would have this separate line, which would just have the ILS with the Preno waypoint, which we are going to make sure that is loaded. So it is the ILS into 26 left, pre-no transition. If there were different transitions to select from, you could just choose that. So in this case, we're going to load it. And let's just hope that it doesn't change anything with Cresso, because it did last time. Okay. So it didn't change anything, which is great. So now we have it loaded up, and then once we are cleared to intercept it, or once we're on a heading and we can expect radar vectors, we know that we're going to be cleared for the approach, so we can activate that approach in your flight plan. So it got rid of like that line there, because now I'm saying, hey, we're going to be doing this approach. Again, it wouldn't be that curved line there. It would just have an extended line from pre-no so that you can intercept it at any point.
Oscar 55, so got departure radar contact. Columbia City, 7maintain 14,000.
Okay, so we do have the IRLE now, so I'm just going to visualize and have it here. So this is my localizer frequency that is coming from here. And that's going to be with the 253 chorus for our loc. I don't know if my next frequency might be, we'll see. Because I'm going to be using this for my DME distance for my FAF, I'm actually just going to be getting rid of this bearing now, just to declutter it a little bit. We are on radar vectors, so 7,000 is a safe altitude. And because this is so close on the field, I'm just going to be using this for my distance because the Las Vegas VOR is right over top, so it doesn't make much of a difference in terms of situational awareness. Again, if it were something else, or if it was different setup with the nav instruments, then I would probably have another backup needle. So we have that, and then the only thing that I wanted to kind of set up and test is, and hopefully I don't screw anything up here. So let's see if I can get, so 200 feet, rad alt. We're gonna try and see if it tells me, gives me like the minimum call, because I think that's how you set it up. It's really different than what I'm used to flying, so please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Okay, let's see if I got everything covered before we come in. I don't know if this is going to be the one, but just in case it is, let's have it preset. 125.025 was the arrival frequency, so we can have it there. As a side note, I don't know if I've mentioned it just yet, but if you were looking to do like live weather, there is that function. The only downside is that right now, I don't think with Flight Sim 2020, the function allows for having two comms. So you have to toggle between your ATIS and then going back onto the frequency. Now, of course, because you're under IFR rules, you do have to just let them know that you're going to be off frequency for a couple of minutes. I think there was a guy that just requested that earlier. So that's just the small thing that you have to do. So request to be off the frequency, listen to the ATIS, and then come back on frequency, and you can let the next controller or whoever know that you have the appropriate ATIS or weather information for the field. So at some point, just to give you guys an idea of what we're expecting here, at some point from the Boulder City VOR, they're going to be giving us some radar vector. So they're going to be giving us a heading of sorts. So this is why you really want to make sure that your heading is synced, so that you can toggle between your GPS and then going to your heading, so that you can just continue to fly along, and now you're just controlling the autopilot, or you're telling the flight director to follow a heading, which then causes the autopilot to follow along. It gets a bit wonky here, so forgive me if it's not the smoothest, but sometimes it starts to turn really weird. So I'm just going to hope that they just give me a heading to change to before that happens. If not, I'm just going to say this ahead of time. I might just stick to heading until I get to Boulder City VOR and then see what they say if it doesn't
Charlie
happen.
Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, fly present heading back to Dallas from my 26 left approach. Contact Las Vegas approach 135.0.
Okay, maintain current heading and expect vectors for the ILS 26 left approach, and we'll switch over to 135.0 for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo.
American 1083, contact Albuquerque Center.
Okay, I got it all correct.
42.
Okay, so it is not that right
American
frequency.
1083, contact Albuquerque Center 134.32.
Okay, so I'm going to toggle to heading. And then what I'm going to do...
November 9848, Tango, contact Burbank Tower 118.7.
118.7 for 90848 Tango.
So this is where it does the weird thing. So I'll tell you guys once I check in.
125.27 for Alaska 55.
Approach, hello, it's Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo heading 0367,000.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, Las Vegas approach, Roger, set to maintain 5,000.
Set to maintain 5,000, Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. Okay, so 5,000.
Look at the departure. 41 Juliet Papa, 1,000 climbing via seat exit to 4,000.
November 431 Juliet Papa SoCal departure, radar contact through left heading 160 and contact approach 134.9.
Okay, so this is where it's weird. This wouldn't happen. Once you activate the approach, this portion would be the magenta line. So right now it's saying, oh, you're going to fly to Preno because that's the transition waypoint that you've selected, but that's not how it would work. So the best way to do this is go to heading. You can activate the approach through your procedures. Just switch your CDI to the loc here. And then once you're cleared, you're going to be now toggling on nav. So now you're telling it, hey, follow with the CDI that I've selected. And in this case, it's localizer 1, which is this frequency right here. So it's really weird. You just have to kind of, it's a makeshift situation here. And then at some point, he's just going to turn me in to turn. So I think my next one will be my tower. So I'm just going to set that up. 119.9, I believe.
431 Juliet Papa, SoCal approach, Roger. Sliding 130 and the LA altimeter 2987.
Okay. How are we doing for time there? Okay.
0.87, heading 130, 1 Juliet Papa.
Okay, so
Charlie Golf, Sierra Charlie Romeo, turn left heading 290, intercept the runway 26 left localizer.
turning left 290 to intercept the localizer 26 left for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. So turning left heading 290. It's pretty abrupt, but should work.
Oscar 55, contact LA Center 133.2.
Okay, so this is another weird thing that happens. So if I activate nav right now, I don't know if it's going to keep on that heading. So we're just going to give it a shot and see what happens. So loc is active now. See, it turns more into it. So that's not realistic. Again, another thing, because there's an option of being able to keep the heading and then have it activate, or sorry, have it intercept from that heading that you've given it. So now it's kind of like angled itself a little bit out. It's not perfect, but we do see that loc is active, and we do see that we are below the glide slope. So then once we're inbound, he's going to clear us to, actually, we'll be cleared for the ILS 26 left. Right now we're only cleared, so that's why I've only clicked nav for loc. Once we're cleared for the actual approach, we're going to click approach, which will capture the glide slope as well. So I'm just going to zoom it in here. And then just as a review, the actual ILS, our crossing, our FAF is relevant at 7.2 DME. So we'll know that we've crossed our FAF at 7.2 DME right here. So there we go. We're intercepting our loc. Beauty, and there's the runway.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, 3 miles from Shand, cleared ILS, runway 26 left approach.
All right, cleared for the ILS 26 left approach for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. So you just let us know that we're 3 miles from Shand, which is 10.8 DME. So we just have to wait until we're a little bit closer, and then we'll be able to actually intercept the glide slope. It is coming down, so that's perfect. Let's see. I've never... So I'll just wait a little bit. I'm just gonna keep an eye on this. I don't wanna have to dive if the glide slope gets ahead of us. So Shand is at 49. So I might arm the approach a little bit before that. So let's just do it now and just see. So this is what it would actually look like when you're on a heading and then intercepting the lope. But anyways, so see how it says altitude 5,000 and then the glide slope. So that's the backup standby mode. It's
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, contact Las Vegas Tower 119, good night.
119.9 for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, good night. Okay, we're over to tower now. And I'm gonna go ahead and set up my ground.
Number 4 Alpha Foxtrot. Where do you have the airport?
Yeah, I'm on a switch to a VR simulator, so I'm trying to get up here and figure that out. 774 Delta Fox.
All right, number 4 Alpha Foxtrot. You're south of the field right now. The field is at your 10 o'clock in about 2 miles.
Okay, I'll be turn around.
Okay, there we go. We're starting our descent.
Foxtrot,
And I'll check in.
cross overhead the field at 2,500 and enter the left downwind for runway 12 right.
Flaps 10. I forgot to set the settings, so it just goes max flaps with my actual button, so I gotta do this instead.
774 Delta Fox.
Number 4 Delta Fox, present altitude 2,500 cross overhead midfield and then enter the left downwind for 12 right.
Okay, entering left downwind for runway 12 right, 774 Delta Fox.
Las Vegas Tower, hello, it's Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, ILS 26 left.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo Vegas Tower, wind 2706, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Clear to land 26 left for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo. A lot of us will turn on the taxi light as a reminder that we've been clear to land, so it's a nice little trick. So I'll wait till we're a little bit closer, and then I'll go flaps 20 and then flaps 30. And then a trick too, to zoom in your map so that once you get on the ground, you can see the airport a little bit better. I had to learn that the hard way. Okay, so we're coming up shortly on our FAV, which is Relin here. So we said 7.2 DME. We're gonna make sure that we are at 3,800. There we go.
Good evening,
All right, so there's Relin, our FAF, 3,800. Altimeters and instruments are all set up. And then I'm just gonna call 1,000 feet early here, but at 1,000 feet, you would set your missed approach altitude. So in this case, it's going to be 7,000 feet set.
Run to right, clear land, 774 Delta Fox.
So I'm gonna try to preset my trim because last time it was just not a pretty picture here.
Number 48 Tango, next left turn, taxi to parking.
Okay, and then we're gonna
48 Tango, thank you.
try
Tango, you
to
remain on this
land
frequency,
this.
and that is a pass on ease in. Remain on this frequency, and thanks for the pass. Have a good night.
Aw, someone just passed. I don't know what that is. There's ratings or something like that. You guys can go tell me about it and check it out. Okay, so once we're a bit closer, 3 miles final inbound, we will set our last flap setting.
Seven Delta Foxtrot exited 12 right at Charlie, requesting departure requesting taxi back to the ramp.
Number 4 Delta Foxtrot, just taxi to park via Charlie. Remain in this frequency. Have a nice day.
Taxi via Charlie, 774 Delta Fox.
Okay, pray for me that this trim isn't like super crazy and that it does it doesn't like spiral dive.
Alpha runway 19 on a clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 19er, 44 Tango Alpha.
Yep, so I overdid it on the trim, but that's okay. Someone has to teach me how to do this because
John Wayne clearance, Skyhawk, Charlie Golf, Delta Tango Echoes, IFR to John Wayne.
Skyhawk Charlie Golf Delta Tango Echo, John Wayne clearance, clear to John Wayne Airport, fly heading 220, radar vectors to Seal Beach. Direct, maintain 2000, expect 3000, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 128.1, squawk 2050.
Clear to
too
John
bad.
Wayne. Fly heading 220, radar vectors, Seal Beach, then direct, maintain 2000, expect 3000, 10 minutes after departure, frequency 128.1, squawk 2850, Charlie Golf Delta Tango Echo.
Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo, turn right Alpha 5, hold short, runway 26 right.
turning right to Alpha 5 and holding short 26 right for Charlie Golf Sierra Charlie Romeo.
Charlie Golf Delta Tango Echo, read that correct.
He's got 2 Canadian aircraft on their frequencies, probably tripping him out. All right, guys, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that my second time around, I got everything that I wanted to cover. So I know it was like half a tutorial, half of me just like actually using the Pilotedge software, the program. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was beneficial to you. If it is, I would please ask that you subscribe to the channel and that you give this video a thumbs up. So give it a like. Go ahead and dip your toes into the world of live ATC. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.